de nuestra propia medicina.
I'm here to learn.
Okay.
I think that's a really great thing to bring up, and I think for me, like a lot of my first year on the project especially was mostly working on like transcriptions and kind of really diving into like a lot of the interviews. Something I really thought was really cool and kind of what got me to the project was how they interviewed my aunt. And so it was really interesting to like learn, my family's history with the involvement because like, as you mentioned, like my dad also worked in the fields a lot growing up, and I think that also influenced a lot of what I want to do in the future and like hearing from him. So it was really interesting to hear my aunt's perspective on it because she's like the oldest of the family, and so like hearing their struggles and also just like how much like my grandpa wanted to help out too, and like although they didn't have much, they showed up, and I think that was something that was really like special to me, and I think that's what really got me hooked to the project. I think that's definitely one of my favorite things, but I think a lot of the work I've done has just been a lot of transcriptions and like really trying to like break down these big interviews and these big ideas. And I think through that, like, it's just empowered me a lot to like continue this, what they've built on. And I think it kind of like motivates you, I feel like a lot of times every time I finish an interview, I'm like, dang, like I've truly gathered new like knowledge from it, and it like angers me sometimes, like some of the stuff they've had to go through, but it also, makes you want to continue to do more. And, it has like pivoted even like some of my career goals to go into more of like the public health sector and like see what I can do in that for sure.
Okay, I'll go next. I think I also started off doing a lot of transcriptions like you. I know I did Jane Garcia at first, and I feel like through hers I learned like so much about Clínica de la Raza. So now that I have the opportunity to work with Tiburcio Vasquez, which is like my community health center back at home, and kind of like, I don't know, it's such a cool opportunity to like be able to like kind of like advocate for your community and put like our accomplishments like on a map and have everyone have access to like all of the contributions we made in healthcare. So I've really been working on establishing Tiburcio Vasquez as a research site. I've been working, I think, since last semester on contacting people like community members, board members, and like I just said, I have contacts now for a medical provider at the clinic. So I've just been working on that, and then also doing my own research on like the need that the community had and why Tiburcio Vasquez even came about in the first place. So I think it's really nice that I got to incorporate my community and at the same time build like a timeline of like the needs, the social justice movements that were involved and where the clinic is at now and how they continue to expand location, services, and then just quality of care.
I like what you said. I think especially like the beginning part of it you said is really important, because I feel like sometimes when we get into the nitty-gritties of like what we do each day, it's like we lose sight of like the bigger picture. Like,
Yes.
And I think that I like what you said, like highlighting all that we've like all that like our community has done to further. I think that's really like really important, and I need to remind myself that sometimes, because obviously like it can get like with all the transcriptions, but I think reminding ourselves like why we're doing this.
Yeah, it can definitely be a lot, but I feel like it's always going to be so worth it at the end, because it's like if we don't do that work for our communities and put ourselves out there, then like who will, like we have to acknowledge the work that we put in.
So true.
Sí. Okay. A veces cosas que estamos aquí hablando y hablando y no.
Y no grabo nada.
Sí. Solamente el volumen es lo que tienes que estar pendiente.
Sí,
de subir a lo máximo.
Sí. You can keep talking.
Entonces, en un momento cuando terminen esta parte les puedo hacer una pregunta así. Una pregunta.
Okay. When I first joined the Center for the Critical Study of Latinx Communities, I didn't really do any transcriptions. I actually went head on to do more research on Radio Bilingüe, because I think our biggest goal was to get someone from Radio Bilingüe to interview with us, and it seems like there had been kind of some struggles to do that and everything. So my biggest thing was trying to learn as much as I can, so that whenever I connected with them, they felt like I knew what their project was, I knew what their mission goals were. Like it wasn't just for the purpose of interviewing, but it was for like our purposes and their purposes of growth on both ends. And I really, really genuinely have enjoyed it. I think there's a lot of things about Radio Bilingüe that I didn't know that they did. And I think that now that we're transitioning into an age where social media becomes like the way that people gain get information about, health services that they can get for free, you know, and things of that nature. I think Radio Bilingüe still serves as like, it's not just a thing of the past, but it's still a thing of the present, because I think that it's a continuum line where like the social media platforms serve to deliver information to other people and make them aware of health disparities within the farm working community, but Radio Bilingüe gives that information to the people themselves to go get this help. And I think there's this split, you know, and I think I want to kind of, I wouldn't say bring back like the importance of radios, you know, because I think that not all radios have been really successful, but Radio Bilingüe has, and I think that it really has impacted the farm working community and just the Latino community at large in the Central Valley, especially during the pandemic. And yeah, it's been a pleasure to continue working on that project.
No, I love that. I remember during COVID too, like going being, like my grandma being in her garden, she would hear like the radio. That's really
Yeah, I think radio became so important during the pandemic. I feel like we were all so lonely, and just like having a voice in the background was really nice. Yeah. Okay, so when I started the project, my first assignment was to edit the Ruth Martinez transcript, and there was a lot of translating, a lot of Spanglish happening there, and that was really fun trying to figure out how to make that cohesive. And then I edited the Lupe Martinez transcript, and both of those interviews talk a lot about like kind of on the ground organizing around, or not organizing, on the ground like healthcare. So like Ruth Martinez was a nurse, and like she saw farm workers come into the clinic with like bees in their ears. And like that, like this one guy couldn't hear for a while, and they got the bees out, and then he could hear, which is like crazy. And both of those interviews also talk a bit about the role of pesticides and the McFarland Cancer Cluster. And so I ended up doing a literature review on the McFarland Cancer Cluster and writing a paper about that I'm gonna edit to make more acceptable for like a blog, make it a little shorter and less academic. And that was really fun. I feel like I learned a lot about Cesar Chavez that I didn't know before. And that felt really rewarding. And then I also interviewed one of my friends that I met last year when I was volunteering at this program called Dance for PDs. It's a dance class for people with Parkinson's disease, and I have been like helping these people dance. Like I used to be a dancer, so modeling movement and stuff, and this one woman would talk to me about like culturally competent care and like how she helped develop all of these models, and I was like, that's like so interesting, and like what is that? And then I started to realize it was like super connected to this project. Actually, I realized that the moment I read what this project was about, and so it was like the process of establishing like academic contact with her again, and she helped start an Instituto Familiar de la Raza, which is a mental health center in the Mission in San Francisco. And I mean, her and her husband Manuel Mena did a lot of work in mental health and trying to get services less stigmatized in the community, and they also were one of the first organizations to provide services for people with HIV and AIDS in the 80s, which I think is really cool. Yeah, so that's been really important to me, seeing how the concept of la cultura cura actually played out for them, and how they bring like this holistic perspective of treating not just the individual but the family and the community. And yeah, you see the results are so positive with that sort of approach.
And I feel like I love that approach too, because it's like culturally competent care overall is like something that I feel like doctors should shift more to, because it's like everyone has their own lived experiences. And I think I also like heard of that term too when we interviewed, I think it was Finn Black at the Berkeley Free Clinic. And I remember reading that, going through that interview. I forgot who worked on it, but it was really eye-opening because they also like really focus on culturally competent care, and like that's what made me want to apply. And so then now I'm like working at the Berkeley Free Clinic because of like something I've learned about here. And I think that's something really cool about like the project has like it really goes beyond just like the work we do, and it's like we're also able to highlight other places in the area that are like continuing to like not only just like treat something but also treat like the other factors that go into this problem recurring instead of just like putting a band-aid over it, which I think is
Yeah, and then I think also like the same thing with Radio Bilingüe, like Samuel Orozco really focused on la cultura cura too, and like this theme around it. And I think in terms, it makes a new like, it creates a new field of academic strides towards not just recognizing Western medicine as effective, you know, but also like recognizing culturally, you know, different remedies that have helped different communities of color. And I think that it's that shift that I think it's being shed to light now, and I really appreciate that and hearing about that.
Sí, muy bien, sí, muy interesante. No, yo quería preguntarle ahora, ustedes saben que la meta principal de este proyecto es estudiar, pueden contestar en inglés. La meta principal de este proyecto es estudiar cómo comenzó, cómo se amplificó el acceso a la salud para la población latina y de ahí a la población, el acceso a la salud hacia otras minorías. Entonces, nosotros estamos estudiando eso como es un proyecto innovador, porque eso per se, como lo que estamos haciendo, pues no se ha logrado hasta el momento. Entonces, quería preguntarle cómo ha sido la experiencia de ustedes de entender lo que significa el acceso a la salud para no solamente para la gente que han entrevistado, sino cómo se proyecta eso dentro de su propia experiencia de vida.
I think for me, something that sticks out when I hear that is like the Roberto Bustos interview, and he talked a lot about, like you mentioned a little earlier, about like more of the grassroots movement, and like he mentioned how like Cesar Chavez would go like door to door, like talking to people, and how he would go, you know, door to door talking to people, and I feel like that is a really good like first step, because I feel like a lot of times when people have these barriers to healthcare, it's because they don't know what they're able to access through healthcare and like their rights and things like that. So I think like a really good first step is just like that education, and I really do feel like knowledge is power a lot of the times, and like just the ability to like share that with others I think is really important. And I think for me in my life too, like I've tried to learn from that and translate it. And so like if there's someone, you know, we all kind of run into those people who have like disagreeing values, and I feel like I try to come through the place of like education and like slowly trying to share that with others. And then it's all about like that's little steps that hopefully add up one day. And then in the movement sense, like it was like the little steps of, you know, trying to convince this person like, oh, like, you know, you have the right to do this, and then it grows and they exercise that right, and then they're able to share it with others, and then it grows, and then from there we're able to actually our community is able to get the access and use to healthcare. And I think that's something that's really cool that I've been able to learn through the project, and like definitely something I want to carry in the future too.
I agree with you. I feel like a lot of access to healthcare is more of like going, like actually educating like the people around us in our community about like the access and like the resources that there are out there. Because I remember when my parents first immigrated to this country, it had nothing to do with healthcare, but more about like services that gave you like food stamps and like EBT. Like my dad had no idea that those services were even out there and that we qualified for them. So for a while, like we really struggled on like, you know, food insecurity, financial insecurity. So I feel like it's also really important to like let our community know. I know in the Jaime Patino interview, he touched base on like him going out into the community and like telling our neighbors like about like the vaccinations during COVID and how we were doing them at our local church. The process, even offered like himself to accompany acompañarlos to go get their vaccines. He told a waitress at one of our local restaurants called Baldy's about how she could get access to the healthcare she needed at the time in Tiburcio Vázquez Health Center, which she thought she didn't qualify for, but turns out she did. So I feel like that's really important. I know in our community we also have promotoras. And they go out and advocate for the community and really educate them and inform them of all the resources that there are out there, and even encourage them to go get them. So I feel like that's a big part of access to healthcare that I feel is really important. I also share a lot of healthcare resources that I have, like access to preventative care when it comes to like STI testing, and even just treatment for like what are they called? Sexually transmitted infections. Like you could go get them at Planned Parenthood. If you don't want to put your insurance out there, they can sign you up on PAC. Like there's just a lot of resources out there, and I feel like the access to healthcare should really emphasize like, how do I say it? Like the contributions like we as individuals can make, and like what is that one phrase called? Like manos ayudando manitas, or have you guys heard of it? It's like I forgot if it's manos ayudando manitas, but it's just about really helping one another and being there for each other and sharing the resources that we know.
Yeah, I agree with everything that has been said. That I think access to healthcare is something that is it starts. I wouldn't say it starts with shared resources, because where did we get to when did we get access? And I think that's where it draws me in a lot. Is it's justice. It's social movements around like we're observant of what we're seeing. Like a lot of for me it was Hugo Morales. He was really a large part of the Chicano movement, and to also be the son of immigrant farm workers is what kind of, I would say, like intertwined his interest in access to healthcare, which is why Radio Bilingüe became really big in access to healthcare for farm working communities. And I think that it starts with other people just advocating, hey, this isn't right, hey, we deserve this. And I think too, for me, for example, I'm also Oaxacan, so a lot of my indigenous community in the Central Valley didn't have to rely on Western healthcare services until they became farm workers, and they were surrounded by new pesticides that started to take an impact on their health. That it's kind of okay, now our our cultural remedies aren't helping us anymore. Now how can we get access to these services? And then that's when other people come into play, where other people start to share information. Hey, you can go to the clinica here for free, here the medicine is free, you don't have to pay for it if you don't have Medicare, things of that nature. But I just think access to healthcare is just, it does take a lot of people, to really start the access and continue the access. Yeah,
absolutely. I think one of my North Stars for all of this is just thinking about how the Black Panthers started their health clinics and how that was all happening around the same time as Mantini-Briggs and Instituto Familiar and Diverso Vasquez and all that. That was an exchange of ideas, and maybe they weren't working together directly, but I think that kind of energy really fed people, and we're still kind of coasting on that now. All of these clinics are still open that started in the 70s and the 80s, and I think that's why I get so excited about this project, is getting to talk to some of those people that were on the ground starting that. And I know for myself, access to healthcare has not always been super straightforward, and I aged off of my parents' health insurance, and now I'm on Medicaid, and I have the best healthcare I've ever had, even though I'm paying $0, which is crazy, and I know that took a lot of fight to get to that place. For people like me to be able to have that good health insurance for no cost, I kind of can't believe it. And I hope that becomes more common for more people.
Yeah, and I feel something also important to this discussion is just the idea that health is not just what a doctor could offer someone, or what a hospital does. It's what you said, it's food stamps, it's housing programs, and it's really focusing on also the cycles that get people into the hospital that need to be addressed too. It's a very holistic approach, and I think that's the really hard part about healthcare as a whole, is it's so all encompassing, and certain health issues that are always a constant in certain communities are due to these more systemic issues that also need to be talked about for sure.
Tengo dos preguntas más, a ver si una, si ustedes sienten, por favor, siéntense, si este proyecto lo ha ayudado a integrarse en la vida universitaria acá, o sea, desde el punto de vista de estudiantes. O sea, hay gente que como latina siempre dicen, ha sido difícil porque latinos somos otra clase. Entonces, uno siente desde el punto de vista, por lo menos lo digo cuando yo estaba en Johns Hopkins, y no tanto porque es internacional, eran estudiantes de todos lados, pero siempre pienso que hay una diferencia que nos pone a nosotros abajo, porque no somos, supuestamente no somos de este país, ¿no? Hay muchos de ustedes que tienen más tiempo generacionalmente hablando que los que se dicen americanos, ¿sabes? Entonces, ¿cómo eso les ha ayudado a integrarse? ¿Qué se siente cuando llegan aquí a la universidad? Como tú dices, Sofía, estabas temblando porque teníamos una entrevista aquí y de repente te pareció, bueno, pero ese es el comienzo, ese es lo que quiero, ¿verdad? Uh-huh. Y la otra pregunta es con respecto al COVID. ¿Cómo fue? O sea, algunos de ustedes estaban en su casa, estaban en high school, pero ¿cómo fue eso? ¿Y cómo esa experiencia del COVID se podía integrar a esto que ustedes hacen?
Sí. Do you mind if I start?
Yeah.
Cualquiera.
Yeah. Bueno, yo creo que para mí COVID tiene todo que ver con por qué estoy aquí. O sea, cuando empezó la pandemia yo estaba trabajando en Phil's Coffee y en otro café en mi pueblo y estaba enseñando danza. Sí, 3 trabajos. No estaba estudiando. Y empezó la pandemia y perdí todos mis trabajos. Entonces ahí me quedé plantada. Menos mal que me pude quedar con mis padres, ¿no? Y me cuidaron y todo, pero ahí me puse a pensar, bueno, necesitamos, o sea, no soy la única que se quedó así plantada. Sorry for not speaking English. And wait, I need to switch my brain.
A mí no me importa, pero aquí Sofía, que es la administradora de eso, de decirte más.
Yeah, but so basically I enrolled in like online community college and took like anatomy and physiology, and I was thinking like, I don't know what kind of like health related thing I want to do, and then I did an internship called Médico. And
At Davis?
Yeah.
I've heard of it.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So it's UC Davis and Kaiser have like a partnership program, and its goal is to get more Latinos in the healthcare sector. They really push for people to become physicians, but it's not the only thing. I knew I'm not on a pre-med track, but that was kind of my first real exposure to the idea of culturally sensitive care, of like medical anthropology. We talked about how COVID was affecting different neighborhoods differently in San Francisco, and that was a paper that was written by somebody who ended up being my professor last semester, which was such a cool full circle moment. And I think like through the experience of that internship, the focus just became really clear that like Latinos like really need to lift each other up, and like, I mean, I'm only a quarter Peruvian. Like sometimes I think how crazy it is that like I still grew up speaking Spanish, and that I still feel like more culturally Peruvian than I do like any other part of my identity. And I think that just speaks to like those values that are instilled from generation to generation about like looking out for each other, and like the more collectivist mindset versus the individualist mindset. And yeah, so I got involved in food bank in Yolo County, and like these like food salvaging initiatives to get like restaurants to, it was like outside of the food bank, it was more of like a town specific thing, but all of that I think really like galvanized. A ver, ¿cuál era la primera pregunta?
¿Cómo te ayudó a integrarte aquí en Berkeley?
Bueno, yeah, so like coming in with that sort of like ontology, I felt like, how am I going to find my niche in this university where in my orientation week there was like one other Latina in my group, and like we immediately like came together like, you know, yapping away, and then like, where's everybody else? And then I came to this building and I was like, whoa, this feels really familiar. This feels like, I can't believe this is here. And I was also very nervous for my interview. I had to perform. And at the same time, yeah, it felt very like homey. So I think, yeah, just getting to be around this energy has meant a lot to me.
Pero nunca te sentiste como un pez fuera del agua al principio cuando comenzaste la universidad.
Bueno, yes, because I'm a transfer student more than anything. I'm like much older than most of my peers. Pero
como,
en términos de ser Latina, I think I've always been a little bit of a cultural chameleon. I think a lot of times people don't realize I'm Latina, or sometimes when they do find out, I can see how it like changes their perception of me, and that's interesting to witness.
¿Cómo lo cambian? ¿Cómo sientes ese cambio?
I think you just like feel that they start to put certain stereotypes on you know, like, or assumptions about your life. I think if people assume a lot about you when you hear you're Latina, like there's a lot of stereotypes that come with that. Yeah.
Cuéntanos sobre una experiencia con eso. ¿Cómo te pasó?
Bueno.
Perdón.
Well, for example, I don't know if this is. So I grew up dancing a lot in ballet world, and it's a very wide space. And I was like on scholarship to be at the studio because couldn't afford it, and I didn't want people to know that. Oh.
Yeah, but see, there's a process going on.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's like GSIs again. I'm not sure. Something like university workers.
Okay.
Something university workers for sure.
But
yeah,
I had a dance classmate once tell me that like the reason why I was so tan compared to everyone else is because like I was meant to work in the fields, and like that was what I was like biologically made for.
Para bailar.
No, to work in the fields. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was an eye-opening moment for sure. That was said by somebody who was a close friend of mine at the time. And yeah, you realize how people view you differently over time.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry you had to go through that. I think that a lot of us can relate to just similar experiences. I think I knew I was always an outcast the second that I got to Berkeley, and just, you know, being Latina, you know, having that indigenous aspect to myself, being on the tanner skin, like not only am I Latina, I look Latina, you know, there's no denying I am a Latina. And just my lived experiences, I just felt like a lot of people here were privileged, including Latinos themselves, and I think that there's not enough discussion about them, but that's like a whole different thing. I feel like it was bad. My first, like, I think the moment I, like, was like, you know what, like, I definitely am an outcast was when I went to the Career Center here at UC Berkeley. If you guys don't know, they have a Career Center, and they have, like, a lot of services, and I had someone look at my resume, and they were looking at my resume, just, like, the title and stuff, and just talking to me, you know, and the woman asked, like, English wasn't your first language, right? And I was like, how would you draw such a conclusion from looking at my name, you know, on my resume?
Crazy.
Like, and I think it was from that second, like, it was from that moment that I've always kind of, like, I became very, very insecure, you know, not just like, I was already insecure with what I knew. I just felt like a lot of people here always feel like when you're in a classroom setting with them, it always feels like they know more than you, especially like, for me being pre-law, like nobody in my family has ever been like a legal professional, and a lot of my other classmates, you know, their parents were attorneys or anything of that nature. So it kind of felt like I already felt really small, But I think now that my added on insecurity was my accent, you know, because for me, I was like, I wasn't aware. I went to like a predominantly like Hispanic high school and middle school, you know, so like
Yeah.
for me, I didn't hear it, you know, until someone else pointed out for you, and then you're like, oh my God, you know.
Yeah.
So that made me really insecure in public speaking in general. And then I became part of the Latinx Research Center. I have my decal there. And I kind of learned how to use my Latinx identity as
Latinx Research Center
Resource Center.
Okay.
Research Center. Yeah, and I've kind of learned how to kind of embrace my Latinidad and everything, and how to use it, like how empowering it is, and just, you know, create a community with other people of the same experiences. And then I think in terms of like, you know, how this like research group has helped me is it's really demystified research.
Yeah.
I think I thought of research very, like when I thought of research, I only thought of cancer research, to be honest.
Yeah.
And maybe it's a bit of my ignorance, maybe I just wasn't like taught, like it wasn't talked about enough. But I was like, oh, I didn't even know you can do research of this type, you know. Like for me, research was just super like STEM focused, and I was like, well, I can't contribute, you know, I'm not a STEM person, you know. So I think that it really demystified research, and it made me realize that you can do research about different things. Like it's not just numbers, you know, it's also, you know, it's in terms of literature, you know, it's through words, you know, you do research on people. So that was really cool. And then with, in terms of the pandemic, I think one of the things, like the health issues that was big was, when the pandemic hit, like since both of my parents were farm workers, they already had a really bad respiratory problems. And when my dad got COVID, my dad was actually hospitalized. And he was like, his chances of surviving were like very, very minimal. And they eventually told him, we can't keep you here anymore. You have to go home. Like, we need to prioritize other people. Like, you can take this oxygen tank with you, and we wish you the best. And I think that for me, like, it's one of those things where, like, you know, maybe, you know, they were prioritizing younger people, you know, or whatever, like their target, like the people they were aimed at helping the most, you know, or were critical in their eyes, you know. But this is also like a father, you know, this is a parent. And not only that, but I think that it erased already the health issues that farm workers have. Like, I think that it was very, like, it's undermined that farm workers don't have these issues just because they're not always, you know, maybe coughing in your face or showing that they have these respiratory problems until like such a severe illness came along. And I think that it's one of those things that makes me want to, like, has really fueled my interest in advocating for farm workers. And I think a big side, like farm workers in terms of legal and farm workers in terms of health. And this is the health part for me.
Cool.
Oh yeah, I'm so sorry to have to go through that. I know, like, COVID hit everyone, like, especially I feel like our community, like, we got hit the worst, and like, thank God my family never, like, had it that bad, but I did hear about it from my mom's perspective, because she's a nurse in Mexico. She works for IMSS, so she would tell me, and she's in the pediatrics, so she had to work with a lot of the kids, and she just told me, like, just be careful, like, please take care of yourself, because once you go on that ventilator, like, the chances of you even surviving are, like, slim to none. So it was really scary seeing it from, like, a health perspective standpoint. But I feel like COVID for me, I was inside most of the time. I was actually, like, going through the worst, like, mental battles I've ever been in my life. So I feel like hitting rock bottom during quarantine really fueled me to, like, get myself together after, like, coming back from COVID, school-wise, academically. I feel like I really started to focus on school and think about college, because COVID hit for me my freshman year of high school, and then I didn't come back from COVID until, like, junior year. So I missed out on a big chunk of my high school experience, but I feel like COVID really helped me, like, put into perspective, like, how, like, easily your life can change and everything can just be taken away from you, and to, like, really take advantage of the opportunity to, like, the opportunity of pursuing higher education, because I know it's a value that my dad always talked to me about, getting a college degree, having, like, a professional career, and just, like, I guess, like, pursuing a better life than he didn't have the opportunity to. What was I gonna say? And then coming into Berkeley, I feel like it was really hard for me, especially my first year. I'm pretty sure you. Yeah, it's okay, don't worry. Yeah. What was I gonna say? It was really hard for me because I feel like first generation students and being Latina, like we don't really know what higher education is like. I think the only concept of higher education, especially here at Berkeley, was through my sister because she was she just graduated last year, but that was the only perspective I've had on higher education. So coming here, I was really feeling what is it called? Imposter syndrome.
Oh, yeah.
Imposter syndrome. One, because it's Berkeley. Like I feel like we're made to believe that people like us don't belong in higher education. And then second, I had a lot of my high school professors, a lot of my high school teachers and my peers kind of like doubt me and even be surprised that I even got into Berkeley. They're like, how come you got in and I didn't? Or like, I hope you make it in Berkeley because I really don't think you can. Like I got a lot of those comments of like just people really didn't think that I was gonna make it here. So I already got here thinking like, oh, like it's so hard, like everyone looks like they're just doing so much better than me and like I'm so behind, like I can't even compete. Like how am I gonna do it for like a master's, a PhD degree? I can't even do undergrad. So I feel like really finding this project gave me a sense of like my community back, because to me my community is everything. And I felt like here I didn't have that at all. So I was really going through it. So I feel like finding the project gave me like honestly this project is like a home to me because I don't know, I just feel so like safe and it feels like home, and I'm surrounded by people that look like me and that have shared similar experiences, and honestly that alone just is everything to me. So the fact that I get to have that and the space to explore both like my passion for healthcare and like social justice, and explore and expand as a expand as a scholar and just bloom, like I feel like this project really helped me a lot, like integrate into like Berkeley and Berkeley culture and like life as a student. So yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we share like a lot of the same experiences, especially like COVID also hit my freshman year of high school. And I think like COVID like truly like altered my brain. Like I think that was like a part of my life where I was really not sure what the future looked like. I knew I was gonna go to college just because like I was lucky enough that my parents were able to get their degrees, and I'm forever grateful that they sacrificed so much as they did to get an education. So I always knew like I was lucky that like education was something that was always seen as like the next step. So I think that's something that I was like really privileged for. But yeah, COVID was really rough. I think that was my first like real interaction with healthcare as a whole. Unfortunately, like, my grandpa got COVID and died from it, and I think that was one of the hardest things because we had to like say bye through a Zoom screen.
Oh my God.
And I think it's like moments like that where it's like I didn't want to log into any of my classes because I got a fear of Zoom for a little while, and it's just like that kind of like desperation to want to say goodbye and not being able to, and like just what was happening in these hospitals really opened my eye to that aspect and how a lot of Latinos were the ones suffering from it. And because he was in like a home at first, just because we couldn't care for all his needs at that point. And that's where he ended up contracting it. It was a lot of the Latino population or like POC population in the home too were the ones that majority passed away from it. So I think that's interesting. But yeah, that's definitely one of the moments that really like pushed me to go into healthcare. And I think from there I just like knew I wanted to go to college for something health related. So I think coming here though, I think this is a place where I've grown to use my voice. I feel like a lot of times in high school, I was just always that person who, did everything that was expected of them, but never really tried to challenge any ideas. So I think coming here, it was definitely very nerve-wracking. There's not too like a big Asian population in Visalia, so coming here was a little bit of a difference. And a lot of my classes now, there wasn't a lot of Latinos with me, and so like that was something I had to adjust to as well. But I think something that really helped it was just finding a group of other like Latinas who also had a lot of similar backgrounds as me. Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, thank you so much. I'm so sorry. Finding other Latinas that had similar backgrounds as me allowed me to feel more comfortable in this place, and I think from that I was able to not have that fear of not knowing people, because I feel like that's always like the scariest thing at first. And then from there I was able to like join the project, and then you know, the more you get informed, the more like angry you almost get, I guess.
Yes.
And the more change you want to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I think like this was a really good catalyst to like start that, and then from there I've been able to go into other different things that I feel like have just grown my passion for healthcare. And I think one of the biggest things is that I came in so pre-med and so set that was the thing for me. And I think with more experiences and more projects and jobs that I've been involved with, it's like learning that there's other ways to be in healthcare. And so like I'm excited to also explore what that means. And, you know, maybe that doesn't mean being a doctor right away, you know, like trying to be more willing with my time and like making sure that I'm putting passion above like what I think I need to be doing at any point in time. But, yeah.
Oh yeah, I agree how this project has been kind of like a stepstone for us, and like really like built our confidence and also opened us up to so many other opportunities to like explore like passions for healthcare.
Yeah.
So I do agree, like there's so many more like ways we can help in healthcare and like the medical system in general. And then what was I gonna say? Yeah, I feel like just this project like allows you to like inform yourself, and like you said, it kind of almost builds up like a sort of like anger inside you, which I really like that. Not that it, like
No,
like,
I get
you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it kind of like that gun us to like keep going and like keep doing your work, because I feel like especially like the work we do with this project, like I feel like it helps so much. And even just me finding this project and like observing you, doctora, like it like me inspiras mucho to know to keep going and to see like such an amazing woman doing this work. Like I want to be in the position you are one day too. Yes, like I want to work myself up to the position where I can like help myself, help my community, but also help other students like along the road. And like I just feel like this project is so influential because I don't know, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I feel like it also allows you to like see yourself in these activists. And I feel like a lot of times growing up, you know, you don't get told of all the different jobs that are out there, all the different things you could do. So I think like truly like seeing yourself in that position is like the way you get inspired, and I think that's been something really cool to experience too. But I also have to leave. So
Sí.
sí.
Buenísimo.